I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. That is a classic tagline from one of the 70s greatest movies, Network, directed by Sidney Lumet. And I can't think of any movie that epitomizes and reflects what is going on right now in the world. This movie is eerily prophetic. It's about media manipulation. It's about corporate corruption. It's about the rise of multinationals. It even kind of foresees the internet and the rise of the internet and the rise of social media and the obsession with self and self-image and worshipping on the altar of self. It's a fascinating movie. The tagline, I'm mad as hell and I'm just not going to take it anymore, should be the mantra of everybody living in the world right now, given the madness that we are seeing around us. So let's cut to the story. The story involves a newscaster called Howard Beale, and Howard has been with this network for years. He's over the hill, he's got a drinking problem, and so the network decides to fire him. But of course, being a network and being gutless cowards, they give the job of telling him that he's fired to his best friend, Max Schumacher, who also works in the newsroom. And the film opens with these two friends getting blind drunk and reminiscing about the old days. And there's a wonderful chemistry between William Holden, who plays Max Schumacher, and Peter Finch, who plays Howard Beale. So anyway, Howard is now told he is going to be fired. So he goes on the air the next evening and announces his imminent departure, and also at the same breath says that he's going to kill himself on the air. And nobody bats an eyelid. Like half the newsroom don't even notice that he said it. And I think that in itself is such an indictment on, today's society, this generation that is so desensitized, that so unaware of what is happening around them, that they don't even notice this man's meltdown. Then it is brought to their attention. One of the guys says, "What did Howard just say?" Howard just said he's going to kill himself on the air. So of course there's a huge debacle, and Max Schumacher is kind of brought in to try and remedy things, and the head, of course, of programming, Frank, I think his name is Frank Hackett, played by Robert Duvall, typical hard-nosed businessman, and of course they're all absolutely furious. So Howard kind of relents and says, "Look, I'll issue an apology on the air." But he doesn't issue an apology on the air the next evening. He goes on and says, "Well, you know what, folks, concerning last night, I just simply ran out of bullshit." And he just goes on this tirade about, how terrible the world is, and, it's like it's all bullshit. And he just speaks truth for like 5 minutes, and they're desperately trying to get him off the air until they see that the ratings, and of course this news station, the ratings were way down. That's also why they were making cuts. The ratings points have gone up 5 points in one night. That means they got an extra 20 to 30 million people watching the program. So Frank Hackett and Diane Christensen, who's also a very ambitious woman who's in programming, they both conspire and say, no, we can't take Howard off the air. We've got to keep him on the air. In fact, we'll give him his own program because the ratings are going through the roof. And Max Schumacher is like, no, this is crazy. Howard is having a meltdown. He's having a breakdown. You cannot, manipulate a sick man and put him on the air for your own entertainment. This is also kind of almost like a precursor to reality shows, where people hang out their dirty washing, and this is entertainment, So anyway, Max's pleas land on deaf ears, and in fact he is fired. But throughout this whole thing, he discovers that he has a lot of chemistry with Diane Christensen, and it's kind of real conflict because she is ruthlessly ambitious. He knows it, but he's attracted to her. He's in the sort of the twilight of his years with a young woman who adores him, is attracted to him. She says, she was a groupie. He's one of the reasons she got into the business. So against his better judgment, he gets involved in an affair with Diane Christensen. So, of course, what happens? Howard goes on the air, but he arrives at the new studio drenched, the raincoat drenched in from the rain outside, looking like a mad prophet. And he goes on this tirade, and he just says, we know things are bad. We know it's terrible out there. He said, you people are, you just want to stay in your homes. You want to eat your favorite food. You want to watch your favorite television program. You just say to me, leave me alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. You need to get angry. You need to get mad. And he says, like, everybody go to your window, open your window and say, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. Go now. And, Max Schumacher's sitting at home, just shaking his head, this is crazy. Next thing he just hears, I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore. His daughter sticks her head out the window. All over New York, it's happening everywhere. People have so Howard has kind of tapped into, the psyche of the American people. He's tapped into what Americans are feeling but don't say. He's giving them a voice. So, of course, the ratings skyrocket yet again. And Diana Christensen and Frank Hackett are just going to keep this going. They're going to keep this going. They're going to keep it going. But of course, this film is so full of so much truth. That's why I say it's so pertinent for today. On one of his tirades, and he's got this game show, he's like this crazy mad prophet. He's got this game show, and he just says, you people out there, less than 3% of you read books. The only truth you know is from the tube. There's an entire generation that doesn't know any other reality. Now, I mean, you could say exactly the same about the internet age. I mean, this film is so prophetic. There's people that only believe what the internet tells them. Their only truth, their only frame of reference is the worldwide interweb. It's eerily prophetic. And he just said, television is not the truth. If you want truth, go to God, go to your guru, go to yourself, because that's where the only place you're going to find truth. You're not going to find it here. And yet we've somehow swindled you. You believe us. You do everything the tube says. You eat like the tube. You dress like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. It's like utter madness, And he just goes on these tirades. But even though they're somewhat crazy, there's huge elements of truth in what he's saying. And that is why people are responding to it. Anyway, Howard goes a step too far. There's a big deal going down between the network and Arab conglomerates, of course, all hidden behind closed doors. Nobody wants to know who's the real source of the money. And Howard goes and exposes this. And of course, his bosses do not like this. The powers that be do not like this. So he is summoned in by Arthur Jensen, who owns the network. And an extraordinary performance by Ned Beatty plays Arthur Jensen. He's in one scene in the movie. And it's one of the shortest scenes of an actor to win an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He's in the movie for 4.5 minutes, one scene. But it is an absolutely electrifying scene. And he basically lays down, like, who controls the world. It's not West, it's not East, it's not democracy, it's not America, it's not a country, it's money and it's corporations. Corporations are pulling the strings. Corporations own governments. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? It's really, really, really an extraordinary film. And so Howard kind of goes on the air the next day and, is kind of sullen and depressed, and it talks about the death of the individual, the death of democracy, the death of individualism, and people becoming humanoids, becoming programmed. Also sounds rather familiar. This film is really, really, really quite so ahead of its time. I mean, this was 45 odd years ago, and it is no more resonant than what is happening right now in the world today. And yeah, it is a biting satire of so many different things. But the bottom line is, like, we need to wake up. There's things happening around us. We are becoming desensitized. We are being lied to by media. We are swapping the truth for a lie. And that is the message of Network and the message of Howard Beale. And it is a riveting one. This film won 4 Oscars. It should have won Best Picture by a country mile. It should have won Best Director. It was by far the best film of 1976. It won Best Actor. Peter Finch, who incidentally is the first actor to win a posthumous Oscar. The second, of course, being Heath Ledger. So he basically was nominated and went on the Oscar campaign trail and actually had a heart attack in the lead up to the Oscars and died. But he was awarded the movie posthumously, and he truly deserves it. He was a magnificent actor, a stage actor, and you can see his stage training in these massive, expansive, complicated monologues that Paddy Chayefsky has written, and he just handles it like a pro. You know, he takes the stage literally and figuratively. And yet there are so many subtleties in his performance, so many shades, a man who is clearly on the border of insanity, but at the same time sees the truth so clearly. William Holden's never been better as Max Schumacher. He's kind of the moral compass of the movie, who sees what his friends going through, sees what's happening at the network, confronts them. He's the solitary voice of reason who is ignored and fired. And even in his doomed love affair with Diane Christensen, you know, he's able to speak the truth and just said, you know, you epitomize television. You're television incarnate. You know, you are insensitive to joy. You are, you know, you cannot feel pain. I feel sorry for you. You know, it's such a heart-wrenching scene. And interestingly enough, Sidney Lumet talks about this scene in his book. And he said William Holden was a pro of 200 plus movies. And he knew that he could cheat it by looking at her eyebrow, looking past her. It would look as if he was interacting with her for whatever personal reason he chose. And Sidney Lumet saw this. And he said, look, William, we've got great takes, but just do me a favor, this last take, just look, make eye contact with her and do this take. And he did it. And he said the emotion just welled out of him. Beautiful, beautiful scene. Very, very poignant. Faye Dunaway, who plays Diana Christensen, also won an Oscar for Best Actress. She's magnificent as this cold, heartless programmer, but also, you know, a complicated character who's struggling with, you know, issues with her father, issues with authority, issues with, you know, do we, don't we, you know, career versus morality, you know, and unfortunately crosses over the line and chooses career. You know, she just says the only thing I can do in a moment of candidness, she says to William Holden, the only thing I'm successful at is my career. The only thing I can do is my career. I can't do life. I can't do relationships. Ned Beatty, I mentioned before, absolutely magnificent as Arthur Jensen. Beatrice Straight, who played Max Schumacher's wife, also hardly in the movie. But when she is, she's a tour de force. I mean, the scenes between her and her husband are heartbreaking. It's a woman who really loves him, who adores him, who's committed to him, and then is, you know, confronted with the pain of her husband having an affair. And it's just such a beautifully, honestly played performance. It's not acting, you know. It's just like whatever pain is in her life as a person is manifest on the screen. It's really a really poignant performance. She won an Oscar for that supporting role as well. And of course, Paddy Chayefsky's magnificent script that is such a satire, such a biting commentary on television, on this illusion that poses as reality, that people take in as reality and build their lives on it and use it as a distraction from reality. It's a magnificent script, and he was worthy Oscar winner. But funnily enough, on the plane to the Oscars, he said to Sidney Lumet, "You're not going to win Best Director because and we're not going to win Best Film because Hollywood doesn't like truth." And sure enough, who got Best Picture and Best Director? Rocky.